Well, hello and welcome everyone to the Play Her Way Innovation Grant Program Think Tank. My name's Kerry Turner and I lead the New South Wales Government's wonderful Play Her Way strategy at the Office of Sport. And I'm absolutely thrilled you can join us today as we explore the latest insights, research and resources that can assist you in design and delivery of your innovative programs. Throughout the tank today, we'll have a mix of presentations from staff and our special expert guests, and include a couple of interviews, and that will be followed by our grant team who will take you through the nuts and bolts of the grant process. And just a reminder before we begin that this grant program is open to eligible New South Wales state sporting organisations and state sporting organisations for people with disability. And all the eligibility criteria is listed in the guidelines. And just a little bit of housekeeping. Throughout the session, you can add your questions in the Q&A and our team will do the best to respond in real time. And if not, there will be a follow-up FAQ document with this session that will be available to everyone. So to get the ball rolling, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce Rachel Allen to deliver our acknowledgement to country. Rachel is a proud Gamilaroi woman and she's our very own Indigenous Project Officer in our Aboriginal Outcomes team at the Office of Sport. Over to you, Rach.
Thank you, Kerry. Yama, Rachel Naya, Gamilaroi Yana Naya. My name's Rachel Allen and I'm a proud Gamilaroi woman and the Project Officer in the Aboriginal Outcomes team here at the Office of Sport. I'd like to begin the session today by acknowledging that I'm joining you all from Dharawal country here in Wollongong, and I pay my respects to the Dharawal people as traditional custodians and caretakers of this land. I honour all elders, past and present, and extend my respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us on the call today. And I'd like to acknowledge that all across New South Wales, wherever we live, work and play, we're on Aboriginal land. Here in Dharawal country, our cultures, our stories are shaped by powerful women's stories and their presence. From Gira or Mount Kira, the women's business mountain behind me that defines the Illawarra escarpment, to the dreaming story of Woolyounga, the sisters whose story lives within the Five Islands offshore in front of me. All of this continues to hold deep cultural meaning for us here on Dharawal country. These places remind us that land and sea country, story and care are all connected, and that women have long held a space and responsibility for nurturing community, passing on knowledge, and strengthening our connections to country. All across Aboriginal cultures, women and girls have played vital roles as leaders, as knowledge holders, as teachers, and as athletes. Strength, skill, endurance, and teamwork have always been part of women's cultural practices, whether through our daily lives, through ceremony, movement on country, or collective responsibility. As we come together today for the Play Her Way Innovate program, we recognise that supporting women and girls is not something new, it is something ancient. But what is new is how we choose to listen, to invest, to remove barriers and create systems that truly value women's leadership and participation in our communities, in our sports and in our society. May this program continue that long tradition of strength, of innovation and of community, and may we honour the women and girls who have always led the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for that beautiful acknowledgement of country and for being such a remarkable champion for women and girls in sport and for all the wonderful work you do at the office. We love having you on board and I'm sure the sector really enjoy engaging with you too. So everyone, it's time to dive into the tank. Here's our agenda for the day. I'll be setting the scene in a moment just to, give a bit of a current view on the landscape and just what we've been up to in the Play Her Way strategy. Then we're going to dive into stream 1 of the grant program and just take a bit of a look at what facts and stats we know about in terms of careers for women and girls and just share some of the great resources we've got ready for you to see. We're going to have a deep dive into stream 2, which is about participation. Then stream 3, bound capability. Our grant team will come in at the end there to really go through some of the technical bits about applying for this grant. We'll have a little bit of chat about evaluation and then it'll be a wrap. So I hope you can all stay with us throughout the day or the morning at least, and really enjoy the think tank. So to get the ball rolling, I'd just like to reflect not only on the current landscape, but also what we've been doing in the Play Her Way strategy, because it's been a really big first year. We've been building upon the success and learnings of our previous strategy, but we've been reaching new heights by applying a contemporary lens this time with a key focus on adolescent girls. Our mission stays the same. We want through this strategy, we just want women and girls to participate, lead, and fall in love with sport in environments that foster a really strong sense of belonging. We want to have inclusive cultures, and we want to work with you in doing that. Because we all know it takes a village. It takes a village to achieve this. And our strategy provides a really unique platform for a shared approach. And this is across a lot of government agencies, from the creative industries, tourism, education, but it's also a shared approach across investment, across brands, across opportunities like major events, media, and of course, and especially across sport, across everybody that's involved today in this tank. We all know that the landscape has been very different to where we were, say, 6 years ago at the start of the pandemic. There's been so many key moments, I think, that have really shifted the dial, and they're around a collective resilient roar, not only of the women playing sport, but the people that are backing, supporting, and filling the stands. I love this picture. This was back in 2020 at the start of the pandemic, where there was a record-breaking crowd there for the Cricket World Cup. We've also seen amazing Australian teams just capture the hearts and minds of all Australians. This one in particular, smashing viewership records and attendance records across the nation, and in so doing, creating an amazing tipping point as the Matildas entered the cultural zeitgeist and continue to do so. Such a wholesome following. I was really excited to be in the stands again at the AFC Asian Cup. And it's just wonderful that that women's sport in this country has now generated such an amazing following. And it's also true that there's a collective roar across our Olympians. Our gold medal female athletes in Paris at the first ever gender equity games became really the cultural shifting heavyweights of our modern era. Women's sport is now one of the biggest growth areas, and fans and athletes themselves are connecting like never before. We are seeing an incredible shift in the sports marketing landscape when it comes to women's sport, which is actually driving that visibility. Interest and investment has skyrocketed, and brands are now recognising their golden opportunity to connect with people through women's sport in a really different way. And the clever brands are doing that by understanding female sport fandom. It's estimated about 1.32 billion was generated during the FIFA Women's World Cup. So we've definitely entered a new era of commerciality when it comes to women's sport. Some could say it's a shift from philanthropic to big business. So visibility has increased the women's sport landscape, and has now become really a powerful force for cultural change. And Play Her Way is all about seizing this opportunity so that we can have a positive impact on young women. And the focus now is we want to have that impact, not only to see themselves playing, but leading and also having a career in sport. But there's many challenges ahead. It does sound rosy, but despite all this increased visibility and advancement, we do know that women and girls consistently participate and lead at lower rates, and girls are more likely to drop out and report poor quality sporting experiences compared to boys. The biggest issue we know is the dropout rate of teenage girls, and we know that they're 1.5 times more likely to drop out than boys by the age of 17. We also know that this life stage is really challenging for a whole host of reasons, and emerging data from COVID also said that the COVID pandemic negatively impacted girls' mental health and participation in sport. When you think about it, wow, like this last year was the first cohort of school-age girls that started in the pandemic in year 7. So they started working from home, like all of us, and didn't have that usual experience that you have when you go from primary school to high school. There's also a cohort that didn't actually tread the boards at uni. So for the first time, we've got a generation that haven't really experienced the same rites of passage that we've all experienced in the past due to, you know, that unprecedented global upset of the pandemic. We also know that for teenage girls over the last few years, there's been a huge spike in mental health disorders, with around 79% of 14 to 19-year-old girls at the moment experiencing some level of mental health disorder around anxiety. And the biggest trigger around that anxiety is around poor self-esteem and negative body image. And we did see a 12% increase in eating disorders from last year. So when we look at, say, through a socio-ecological model, at the societal opportunities, we see some really great upward forces there. Of everything I was saying in that introduction, the landscape is great in terms of the visibility and the role models and the wholesome nature of women's sport and that inspirational element. But underpinning that, we have been in one of the most transformative moments in history. And look, every day, even now, the global, political landscape is changing every minute. Like even when we get off this call, it'll be something new. So not only is that having impacts on family, on sport, on individuals, but particularly we know that focus is having an impact on young girls and how they see themselves. So there's no doubt that for us to keep a younger generation, not only to love sport, as to be fans in the stands, to lead, to really want to be able to participate, we need to take a fresh look at how we engage adolescent girls in particular. And this is everything from how we gather insights, how we provide those welcoming environments, and how we deliver the programs. And we want to build this sense of belonging across all the pillars of our strategy, all the pillars from being in the stands as fans and falling in love with it, to taking on leadership positions, to even having a sort of an aspiration to want to have a career in sport and to dream of a sport-aligned career, and also to not shrink ourselves, to be able to participate freely and feel very confident in that environment. So the challenge for all of us is to leverage these upward forces and to place women at the centre of design. I get a giggle with this picture only because I constantly feel when it comes to women's sport, we're actually flying the plane while building it at the same time, because in essence, a lot of sport, it hasn't been built for women and girls at the centre of design. Everything from now, when we think about even training programs haven't been very much designed around the female body, right through to facilities and the way we engage. So what's really important about Play Her Way is that we're not about the shrink it, prink it, sorry, the shrink it, pink it mindset. You can't just do the same thing when it comes to women and girls. You need to put them at the centre of design. And by that, I think it's really important for everyone to go into innovation or go into this mindset utilising the socio-ecological model. It's become my best friend. Well, I have a lot of friends, but this one's one of my best ones when I'm thinking of designing strategies and policies when it comes to women and girls. And by that, we say that you need to put them at the centre of your design across the whole system. And the thing that I love about this framework, which is a blue ribbon framework for behaviour change, is that it really looks at those interrelationships between the individual across all different settings. So you look at what's happening in society, you look at those moments that you can leverage, you can look at, maybe World Cups or what's happening, but you also need to have the data and the information around the individuals at the centre of your program. We also want all sports to think of that individual in terms of all women and girls. So really to have a lens that's not just about one aspect, to really be quite broad and inclusive in terms of your design. We can really assist you at the Office of Sport. Rachel and her team can really support you if you really want to know better ways to engage with mob. And we can also support you in terms of having that broader lens when it comes to all individuals in society. But when you look at this model, you're looking at, well, what are the key influences? What are the influences that are really directly involved in young women's lives? What are the influences in the community, and what are you leveraging across society? This is a really good framework for you in terms of how you design your programs. I'm going to go a little bit braggy here because in our first year of Play Her Way, we've really achieved quite a lot of things. We've been quite razor sharp in asking the tough, important questions. We've been setting up processes to help us to do that. We've been gathering evidence and data, and we've been working across the key influences to create initiatives which can really reap results. And today, I really want to share some of those findings to really support you, particularly in the pillars, particularly in the streams of the careers area and in the participation area. So you can see there, we've been doing quite a lot of work. We set up a Teenage Girls Advisory Committee. That's been just so influential and impactful in terms of us making sure that we're youth focused. We've held careers summits and undertaken a lot of focus groups. We've had big new initiatives in partnership with Transport. We've had the other projects that are doing a deep dive into some of the barriers for girls and for teenage girls in particular. I'm really proud of that gender equity on boards, and what a big call out to Russell Grimson, who's on this chat, about the incredible work, and Libby Sadler as well, who's now with the office, in terms of really supporting our state sporting organisations to reach that target of gender equity on boards. So let's let's get into the tank, because this innovation grant program is really exciting. It's one of our important initiatives to help support you, our state sporting bodies, to think really innovatively about how you can actually drive change under our 3 funding streams that we'll talk about today. And we want to back your bold ideas. You've been so great in the past, and we want to back them so you can set up these environments for women and girls to thrive, both on and off the field. So in terms of careers, you'll find in this grant program, there's 2 tiers here. We really would like you to think about activations, so ways in which you can promote information on a range and roles of careers, pathways in sport. And then there's also another tier around pathway support. So that's maybe a bigger project, if you like, in terms of looking at how you as a sport can better support young women to advance their sporting pathway. So they're the 2 areas, but what I'd love to do now is just share some of the work that we've been doing, because that work can really help you in terms of thinking about the design of your program. So we set off last year to ignite the ambition and create some pathways and champion diverse sport careers for young girls. We went about that by doing a deep dive, and I'm going to get Christy Cotter on the call in a minute. We did some focus groups across the state, and we found out some really interesting things from listening to the voices of young women. And then we also held a summit, and that was with all the key influencers around young women, where they come to making any decision or having any awareness about their career. And that was like PE teachers, we had careers advisors, and we had representatives from sport in that summit. And we challenged and tested the summit participants with ways forward. It was fantastic, and we were able to gain a lot of feedback from showcasing the findings of the focus groups, and also asking key questions of the audience. So Christy Cotter, are you around, and can you come on to the screen?
I'm here.
Hello, Christy.
Hello.
Christy works in our Play Away team, and she's absolutely awesome. And she led a lot of the pre-research to lead us into the summit. So Christy, can you just tell us what the state of play is? I know we've got leadership and careers stats there, but can you just share with us what you did and how we found out about the latest landscape at the moment?
Sure. So we just did a bit of a data capture just before we started getting into this work, just to see what the lay of the land was. So all the data that we have from all you people from state sporting organisations and state sporting organisations for disability, we capture all the gender related stuff now. So that's really helpful. So the female staff for all of the rolled up organisations altogether is sitting at 43.8%. When we look at female board members, 43%. Female coaches and instructors is a bit lower, still at 29.1%. And female officials and judges are sitting at 32.4%. And then we also did a bit of a deep dive into the UAC data for all the university courses that are related to sport. So this probably maybe not the full picture, because there's a lot of, the degrees you're teaching, you can specialise in different things, but for the UAC data, so female enrolments overall in sport-related courses, we're sitting at 43.6%. And then when we take specific examples, so we grouped all the courses, so the sports business and management, that's where you see a bigger difference. So there's only 32.9%. This is from 21 to 24. When we look at sports exercise science, that's 45%. Sports media is 30%. And then the ones that are really overrepresented in females are things like sports nutrition and those sort of courses. We're sitting at like 70%. So it paints a bit of a picture about sport careers and career pathways and information that we have available at the moment.
Now, Christy, you're also really busy around gathering so much information from our focus groups. Can you share with us what happened there?
Yeah, so this was a little while ago now, so it's a bit of a stretch of the mind, but we did like put girls at the centre of this project again, and we did a call out for girls from like high school, tertiary, and new to the sport-related workforce. And we put a call out for people to participate in focus groups, just using it in general out to the world. And we were so pleasantly surprised. If you go to the next screen, we got 122 expressions of interest for that. We're always so overwhelmed really with the response when we go out for these types of things, because it's we weren't offering payment, it's giving up people's time, and we managed to get way over more than we needed. So we ended up selecting 38 young women from those expressions of interest. We did 7 focus groups, some in person, some online. We did them in regional locations at Tamworth and some based at Sydney Olympic Park as well. They went for 75 minutes, and it was just to get some real honest feedback about what girls think about sport careers, and they just really gained some feedback. So for the year 11 and 12 girls, the key themes that came out of that were that they're really unaware of career options within the sports sector, and specifically they could only name the careers like that were right in front of them as a player. So they could name the coach, the manager, nothing else really other than players, coach, managers, and those supporting roles that they see in their sport participation setting. They viewed the sport sector as male dominated. And some of the quotes that we got from them was that when they have careers days at their schools, sport is only ever represented from a professional female athlete. They might get a sports star that comes in, does a careers talk around their pathway to being an athlete, but that sport was never represented in any other way. They're the ones that participated in our focus groups anyway. And the PE teacher pathway was more likely to recommend careers in the sports sector. So with the tertiary students, the key themes around that feedback was that you really need to know someone to get into a sport work experience or internship, and it's very hard to have, there's no recruitment transparency and there's no visibility on opportunities compared with other sectors and that universities don't have sports sector representation at the career expo days, and they need to courage to be better than their male peers. So yeah, again, even when they were in the courses, they weren't really sure of their career options once they were already in that course. That was an exception to that rule with sports science students. They were a bit clearer on the possible pathways, but they have to rely on their uni contacts or people they knew. There was no transparency and opportunities.
Thank you so much, Brains Trust, Christy. From that summit, it was amazing because we basically rolled up our sleeves and went, okay, we've got enough evidence now. We do know that there's a big opportunity, and that is that the women's sport place is growing so fast. There's this demand now for smart, skilled, ambitious young women, and that demand has never been greater. And we really do want to celebrate the rainbow of career opportunities. And it's not just for sporty girls. We want girls to see themselves in a whole range of roles, perhaps from business to biomechanics, research to reinvention, maybe TV to textile. Sport careers span far beyond the game. And we really wanted a way in which we can engage with young girls in that regard. We love the phrase, if you can see it, she can be it. And now it's time to extend that to careers. And for young women, that's often starting with that key influencer. And we know that sport is a key influencer, for that tap on the shoulder. And just think back, everyone on this think tank with us, who actually tapped you on the shoulder to go, hey, there's a bright world out there? For me, it was my librarian of all people. And it was just to introduce me to go and do a human movement because she thought I would be interested in that. But really rarely do we have eyes on the range and the absolute, delightful opportunities that are out there that young women can be involved in. So from all of this, our focus now is lighting the spark. We know that there's a gap, and that's about spark lighting. So we want we want to light the spark for young women from creative to curious, from scientific to sporty. And we want to sort of celebrate that there's a place for every girl in what we're calling a sport-aligned career, because it's better language, because there's so many opportunities that are aligned to the sport ecosystem. And in having this focus, we've engaged some really creative companies, and we've been working with our Teenage Girls Advisory Committee to co-design some really incredible engagement tools. So what I'm going to share with you in the next couple of slides will all be going live in the second week of May. So I'm showing this to you now so you can see what will be available. And that may spark an interest in you as a sport to think, well, if we want to do some activations, we know that there's these tools that have been designed and we could integrate them into some opportunity. So I'm showcasing this now, and that will all be live in the second week of May. So what we first did is, as I said, we co-designed some engagement tools to spark interest. We developed a careers resource hub to help, it says there, to really help young women to discover a future career in sport. And there's toolkits on this hub for sport, for schools and careers advisors. There's also a National Careers Week. Some of you may not be aware of that. That happens in May. So we want to integrate a campaign around National Careers Week. So we'll have some really good campaign messages at that time. And of course, we now have the activation grants for sport to consider. And your grant program does go for a year, so you might want to gear up for Careers Week either this year or next year. All right, so let me show you a little bit more about what's in the hub. So it's called Her Future in Sport Hub, and it's packed with resources to help teenage girls and young women discover a future in sport. I hope you're all sitting down because it's very exciting. So the elements of this hub are multi-layered. So I'll just start up with the star at the top. We've got a partnership with the Female Athlete Project. So Chloe Dalton has a really great podcast, that series that she does. And she is going to do a series for us across interviewing 5 different women in their various and diverse careers. So that podcast is happening at the moment, and that will drop at the same time as Careers Week. So we will start to see some of those, or hear some of those stories. They will be linked in our Sport Hub. So there's going to be an audio version. Over here, we've also got storytelling, written and video stories of the day in the life of. We're getting our library bigger and bigger as we go. We've got quite a few good video clips from a couple of sports, like rugby union and cricket. And we've got some really good stories that we're really open to any of you. You can tap us on the shoulder, and we'd love to capture stories of women in your sport as well to put on the hub. And you may even see that storytelling is a really important aspect in you applying for a grant in this area. There's also digital toolkits, and I'll show you a little bit more of that in a minute. So there's some really good accessible tools for sports and schools to do some promotion around careers for girls. But what I want to take you through is the really creative element now, which is the Her Future in Sport quiz. So this, as I said, has been youth designed with our Teenage Girls Advisory Committee, and it's, I'll just say, very funky monkey, which is quite a weird thing to say. All right, so in terms of getting this kit together, or this tool together, we needed to think, well, how do we actually communicate careers in sport or sport-aligned careers? So we've come up with categories for the purpose of this online tool. So the categories are communications, media and marketing, medicine and health, facility management and planning, technology and analytics, admin and management, design and apparel, education, training and coaching. And when we came to this part of the project, underpinning each of those categories as a diverse range of jobs. Just let you take this in for a moment. So in terms of sport-aligned careers, we've got avatars now across all the different categories. And you can have a look there. You can see how diverse the range of sorts of jobs that fit under that category could be. So I'll just give you a little moment to have a look at what's there. It's not a definitive list, but it will give young women a chance to go, wow, there's a lot here. There's a lot of different opportunities that are sport aligned that I could get into. But here's the really groovy thing. This particular quiz can be on handheld. It can also be on screen. It's visually engaging, and it takes the teenage girl through a set of questions or a quiz that it's gamified. So the quiz itself is really fun. And in that quiz, it's really asking them about their interests and the ways they think about sport. Through that quiz, it will suggest an avatar or a category of career that may be interesting to them. And within that, it will start to showcase all the different sport roles that you could have under that category. So it's really personalised, and by the gamification element, while they're doing the quiz, they can there'll be a duffel bag, and they'll be able to put things into the duffel bag to build up their avatar and personalise where they land on the quiz. It doesn't lock them up into any category. It does share that there's other things out there, but it's a really great engaging way for young girls to really explore the wide world of careers that they could see themselves in one day. So this tool, we just had another meeting with the designers at the start of this week, and we saw all the gamification elements. It will also link to the hub, and it'll also showcase a couple of the stories. So while they take the quiz, they land on a career category, they can see all the different roles in that category, they can have a listen to someone in a career like that, and they can be channeled back to the hub for more information. So we're really proud of this. We're really excited that it'll be out in the domain, and we've really encouraged sports to see where they can actually promote this or integrate it into any of their career promoting activities. In terms of tools and resources, there are downloadable toolkits, as I mentioned, for sports and schools. We'll have a series of posters across all the different career categories and brochures. In the digital area, there'll be EDMs available for you with all the messaging, career, social media tiles, digital content. There'll be links to the tool, podcasts, and the hub. So when all this goes live in the second week of May, all these resources will be available to you. So in terms of that, they're really good things to help activate or help raise or promote the opportunities to young women. I just also want to talk about what other things sports can do in a broader sense. We do know a lot of sports are really well set up. They might have partnerships with universities. They may have internships set up, and they're the kind of things that we would really want you to explore and be innovative in and around. But I just want to share, I had a great experience last year. I was invited to the Women's Rugby World Cup as an observer. And in that week before the Red Roses packed out Twickenham Stadium, it was really amazing. It was almost like their Matilda's moment in England. But what I was really impressed with is World Rugby's approach to careers for women in sport. They really did focus this event around really pushing opportunities for women to have a career or an experience within rugby. Some of the things they did were really intentional. So they did some amazing surveying. They understood, just like we have for our focus groups, around some of the barriers to participation as or going for a career within rugby, and so what those barriers are. They were also very intentional around procuring organisations to work on the World Cup. So, for example, the ground staff for all women's ground staff. So they got that experience of preparing the pitch and being part of that World Cup experience. Every accreditation for every team was extended by 2 positions for a female involved with rugby in England to get an experience to be aside that team for the whole event. So that was like having a physio, for example, or a content creator, or anyone that wanted to have an experience in how this event runs. So I thought that was really quite clever. They have a whole project now following that World Cup and a whole program. It's worth having a look at. It'll get you thinking of, well, what more can you do? Can you leverage an event to actually be quite intentional to get experiences for young women in particular, to see a vast range of roles that are happening within sport. I'm going to pause now and say a big hello to Julie Stafford. Hello, Julie Stafford. Can you come on board? Hello, Julie. You are the fantastic female engagement and DEI manager for cricket, and you're a wonderful advocate for women's sport. And you've also been a careers advisor in a former life. Is this true?
Yes, yeah, I was a PE teacher, but I did a bit of careers advice as well.
So we've got a big expert here right in front of us. Can you tell us about the work that you've been doing in cricket? Because you've been naturally working in this space for a bit, on how you're showcasing career opportunities for women. Just tell us a little bit about it. What have you been doing?
Yeah, well, a couple of years ago, you were invited, which was brilliant. We just felt that there was an opportunity to engage our amazing female staff, because you already said we've at cricket and every other sport, intelligent, engaging female staff. And I felt it was a great opportunity. I think you got some photos there. Great opportunity to have some of our staff talk about the careers that they did. So we did a bit of a quick summary of what's the landscape of the sports industry, and then we invited people to come into Cricket Central, which is based in Sydney, and to listen. And we just had a range of our own female staff talking about their roles and their jobs. And we had about 40, 50 participants who came all the way to cricket. And it was really, really well received, hugely, hugely well received. People were really fascinated by the variety of jobs like finance and legal and all the things that you don't really think of, like events and admin and all of that. It was fantastic. So
yeah, I loved being a part of seeing you operate that, Julie, because it was like, if she can see it, she can be it. And she was actually the girls were having these wonderful conversations with all sections of your organisation that have women actually in careers. So you've just seen all those resources that are coming out. How do you think, has that sparked some interest with you in terms of
100%. I'm going to grab, I'm going to grab all of those. I'm going to, what I'm looking to do with this grant is to have some online workshops, because we're acutely aware that coming to a physical place meant that some people couldn't find it, and we shared it on LinkedIn, and people said, oh, I wish I'd been able to attend. So I'm going to do some online workshops, and I'm just going to be using your Careers Hub stuff. So I'm going to be using your Careers Hub stuff as a starting point. And then very similar, I thought I'll invite some of our staff in to speak about their careers. They can talk, a live person can talk about what their jobs are, because I think it's really important that we use our young female staff to be talking about the job, so it can be really, really relatable.
That's awesome. And just putting your careers advisor hat on again and thinking of the broader sports sector, I just shared some of my experiences with that Rugby World Cup. What more do you think sport can do, but innovatively, to really start to show women that there are roles for them, but intentionally do that?
Yeah, I think it's really important, and I think getting to teachers, getting to careers advisors, sharing widely. I'm looking forward to bouncing off what you promote. If we can all bounce off what you promote, then that will get broader. But I can absolutely guarantee that people aren't aware of all the different variety of jobs in the industry. I can guarantee that they don't know it. So I think the resources you've created are absolutely phenomenal, and I'm super excited. There's no question that here at Cricket we're trying to get more women employed. So we're focusing not only women on boards but people employed. So this is really going to help.
Thanks so much, Julie, for sharing your insights and for being that careers advisor / PE teacher / wonderful leader in women's sport. Thanks for those insights. And so hopefully all of that has, in terms of this grant program, provided everyone on screen today with some ideas on how they could go about maybe some innovative ways to engage girls and women into thinking about having a role or a career in sport, or intentionally making sure that there's a program that's quite well thought out. Okay, thanks Julie again. I'm going to move to the stream of participation now. This has been in our former grant program as well. So this is all about breaking down the barriers and known barriers to have inclusive sport experiences that reflect what women and girls want. And we have to say again and again, you have to put women and girls at the centre of your design. You need to get the data and the information, and you need to consider, well, how can you actually enact some different ways of providing that opportunity. I will reflect on our Innovation Hub because we've had some great programming in the past, but I'm going to call back Christy, the Brains Trust again. Christy, are you online still? There she is. Christy, what's the current state of play with AusPlay and some health stats, please?
Okay, so when we went into developing the Play Her Way strategy, this was one of the key reasons that we focus on adolescent girls. So when we were developing that strategy, the biggest gap is always in the 15 to 17 years. We look at 3 times a week participation. All the other age groups, there's a few percent gap, but there's a 23.5% gap in the male-female when we were developing the strategy. In the 2 years following that gap has closed a little bit, but it's still in 23, 24, nearly 17%, and in 24, 25, 9%. So the methodology did change from that in capturing AusPlay as well. I'll just say that from 22, 23 onwards. But that's still the age group that has the biggest gap in participation for sport, hence why we're focusing on that age group. And then when we look at the New South Wales health stats, so 86.7% of girls do not meet the physical activity guidelines. And again,
it's terrible,
it is terrible, Kerry. And so nearly a 13% gap between the male and female. The males still aren't meeting it either, but there is a big gap.
We did rattle off a few barriers. Do you want to rattle off a few more that we know?
Yeah, so this is these are some stats from the UK Women in Sport project. They've got some excellent resources if anyone ever wants to look at their resources. But 70% of girls avoid trying new things in puberty because they're too afraid to fail. 33% of girls are unhappy with their body image. And the Lip Timber Foundation has some really good research around mental health, and 79% of 14 to 19-year-old girls in Australia are experiencing a mental health, a mild to moderate mental health disorder. And a lot of that is around body image as a trigger.
Thanks so much, Christy. As we mentioned, in a world of distorted reality, we need to be armed with the latest insights and evidence-based approaches to engage teenage girls and to empower them to deflect some of these unrealistic beauty standards that create this poor body image. So we're really excited that we've engaged the team at the University of Newcastle to equip all of us with the latest insights and evidence-based approaches to engage teenage girls. And we've engaged them to really focus on adolescent girls in terms of all the challenges around body image and social media. So it's my absolute pleasure to stop sharing my screen and hand over to Professor Phil Morgan, who is the co-director of the Centre for Active Living and Learning. And he's the founder of the award-winning Daughters and Dads Active and Empowered program. And he's at the University of Newcastle. So Phil, it'd be really great if you can share some of those initial findings that you have with this study. And I hope I've done that properly.
I think, Kerry, Phil, we're having some technical issues, maybe getting Phil in. Oh, they might be in. I can see someone in. Is that you, Phil?
Phil.
If we can get Phil off mute, he might be in.
Okay. Well, while we're waiting to get Phil off mute, it was really exciting, hasn't it, Christy, in terms of being able to get the team at the University of Newcastle to pivot from dads and daughters, which has been really, well, they're still running that, which is really fantastic, but to apply a lens to the teenage girls and discover through a whole lot of focus groups and discussions with girls and teachers and coaches in particular on getting latest evidence and information.
Absolutely. So yeah, Adolescent Girls Empowerment Project, a research project. It's there hasn't been much contemporary research in this area. We go back to known barriers, but really putting girls at the centre. And as Kerry said, the team at the University of Newcastle did a whole lot of focus groups with adolescent girls. They did a whole lot of focus groups around coaching and their experiences at coaching, parents and their perceptions of their experiences. So they've really covered some contemporary research there. I think we might have to pre-record what Phil was going to present because I think we're having issues with getting him off mute.
Okay, well, in that case, Christy, should I just continue and come back to Phil?
Yes.
Okay,
That's the best option.
Okay, so when we get Phil back, will be really great because he's going to give us those latest insights. But it's a great chance to actually reflect that innovation is definitely the key here in order for us to think differently, and we must think outside the box. And we've had some amazing programs under the former strategy, and the fact that they were all evaluated very well and they've got case studies, everything from uniform design to getting girls to experience, different roles in sport. We've had really creative projects around the music, using music and art to really celebrate new role models in sport, and just basically changing the look of how everything is delivered is the key. And for those that may not know, our Innovation Hub is on the Play Her Way website, and it has all the stories and all the video clips to give you that inspiration. And we also, at this point in time, it's really important to check out the participation planning tool that will also have some really good information for you in terms of what you need to do as an organisation to better engage with women and girls, but also in terms of insights and program development. It has some really good tools in there and some ideas on how you can get started. So I really encourage everyone, if they want to think of different ways to definitely overcome the barriers, to look on to those two areas of our Play Her Way webpage. So when I get told about Phil coming back in, I'll let that happen. But we'll move on now to the capability area. And this is all about how to build your capability within your organisation, actually, to better equip yourself to develop gender inclusive sporting cultures and increase participation of women and girls both on and off the field. We've had to do this ourselves at the Office of Sport, of course. We're doing a whole strategy around a key focus of adolescent girls. We really did need to ensure that we had their voice front and centre for us. So, and, in order for us to embrace youth-led innovation. So we established the Teenage Girls Advisory Committee earlier on this year. We had 8 bold, creative and inspiring young women. We did it in a really innovative way. So we made sure that we went out, invited young women to apply, and we did that by asking them to do a little 1-minute video. It works a treat. And in that 1-minute video, we could see their passion and what they wanted to how they could actually impact. So the Teenage Advisory Committee we thought at the start it would be just a couple of meetings. No, we have been working with them nearly every single week on particularly designing the resources, and also on our latest campaign with Stadium to Street, that fashion campaign that we just led, and also around our running campaign. So it's just vital, I think. If you're going to do anything around innovation, you need to have the people that it impacts speaking with you and co-designing along the way. So it was really also fabulous that we're not the only ones out there doing that. Netball New South Wales have also been very busy with their advisory group. And Jenny, who's on the line, I think, Jenny from Netball. Are you there, Jenny?
Yes, I'm
You
here.
are. Hello, Jenny Moroney. We had a fun day, didn't we, when we brought the TAC and the YAG together. It does look like a photo for the Sydney Roosters, I know, but it was a fabulous day. And it was really great that Netball have also harnessed the voice of young people so that they can impact your offerings. So you've established the Netball New South Wales Advisory Group. Can you tell us why you set it up and how it's been going so far?
Yeah, thanks, Kerry. The Netball New South Wales Youth Advisory Group has just been an incredibly rewarding project to lead. And it was just sparked by passion to give young people a genuine voice in our game. And we intentionally brought together a diverse group from across New South Wales. And what stood out to us is just how passionate, insightful, clever, and driven they are. And not only just about netball, but about making a difference. And we've just learned so much from them just by listening to how they want to connect and engage with netball. And they were already doing amazing things in their communities. We have Alyssa, who's pictured there, who's become the youth premier, and we've got Dakota, who's already the vice president of her local netball association out at Canamble. So, with us, they've led projects, they've presented at our AGM, and they've confidently stepped into an environment alongside key leaders in our game as well. So for us, we found that when we give young people a seat at the table, our sport becomes stronger, more connected, and better prepared for the future.
That is so exciting. I know we've had so many moments with our TAC where we just go, oh, we have these aha moments. So it's really worth setting it up. How did you go about that, Jenny, in your sport?
About setting it up?
Yes.
Yeah, we leaned on, obviously, Erica from the Office of Sport has been great with us at the start when we were putting it all together, and we got a lot of inspiration from the TAC. And we just asked them questions, and we leaned into that video idea as well, because a lot of the kids love being able to express themselves through video. And then we took them through that process, and we were only supposed to have 10, but they were so incredible. We've ended up with 12, and they've just said to us after the last weekend we had with them, they're like, oh, can we stay for 2 years? So, and they're doing such amazing things that I think we're going to take them up on that.
That is so good, Jenny. We've also set up an internship too, which we're really excited about. So you got to walk the talk here. And I think what we've found amazing is it's one thing to set these things up, but it's another thing to listen properly. And I think we're on a bit of a learning curve with that. But once the floor is theirs, you just go, wow, we should have done this a long time ago. Do you feel the same?
100%. I feel like, why has it taken us so long
Yeah,
to get here? And, I think for us, we wanted to make sure that they had a true, genuine voice, not just something tokenistic and ticking a box. And we've been blown away with what they've come up with. And they're working on 3 key projects at the moment, which they will actually deliver out into the community. And they're so excited about doing this. And we can't wait to see it all come to life. It's really exciting.
Well, thanks, Jenny, for sharing how it's working with you. And I think it's just another great example here of a capability style initiative. Other examples could be anything that you want to do around, inclusive cultures. Interestingly enough, I just saw the AFL is running a pilot around male allyship for female leaders, which could be really amazing in terms of just looking at allyship within the sport, supporting female leaders in their roles. So that could be something that's really important here. Other projects could be around that you just need to build your knowledge base and you need to do some focus groups or work in partnership, maybe with a university on a particular research project. So this area of our grant program is really around ways of which this funding can actually support you as an organisation to be in a better position to create those better environments for women and girls to thrive in sport. So thank you so much, Jen, for your time today.
That's all right. Thanks, Kerry.
That's all right. Cheerio, Jen. It's now hello to our grants team. They're going to take us through the nuts and bolts of this grant program, and I'm going to take a little break while they take over. Over to you, Alex.
Thanks, Kerry. I'm Kate Pulbrook.
And Kate.
You're right. I'm the acting team leader of the sport grant team here at the Office of Sport, and joining me we have Alex Georgopoulos, who is the program lead for Play Her Way grant program. We're going to talk you through the program and the key things you need to know when making an application.
Thanks for the intro, Kate. So to start off with, we're going to quickly cover the key dates and funding available. So Kate, could you please explain when people need to have their applications submitted by?
Thanks, Alex. As you all know, the program opened on Thursday, the 9th of April, and the closing date for both tiers of the program is 1 p.m. on Thursday, the 30th of April, 2026.
Perfect. So we can see on the slide here, there is a total of $500,000 in funding available across both tiers. But could you please talk us through the difference between the two?
Yeah, sure. We've got 2 tiers of funding for 4 project streams. So tier 1 encompasses one stream that is for career activation. So this tier is for grants between $3,000 and $5,000. Tier 2 applies to the 3 remaining streams, being career pathway support, participation and capability. These tiers are for grants between $10,000 and $45,000. There is no separate funding allocation for the 2 tiers. Each tier has a distinct eligibility criteria and project types. Applicants must apply under the tier appropriate for their project. For instance, a participation focused project cannot seek $3,000 in funding.
Great. So how much funding can any one organisation receive?
You can make as many applications as you like. However, the maximum amount of funding that can be awarded to one organisation is $50,000.
Okay. And do organisations need to contribute their own funding or seek third-party funding towards their project?
No, there isn't any mandatory financial contribution for the tiers. However, the total project cost should reflect only the scope of works for which grant funding is being sought. You may have previously heard of in-kind contributions, for example, donated goods or services. For this program, in-kind contributions cannot be calculated towards the financial COCON and should not be reflected in your application.
And what happens if an applicant is unable to submit on time? Are they allowed an extension?
Unfortunately, no, we are unable to extend the closing date, but if an applicant cannot submit on time, they have up until 1 hour of the closing time to contact the Office of Sport to apply for a late application. Now, late applications or documents are only considered if the application was already started in Smarty Grants prior to the closing time and date, and the acceptance would not compromise the integrity of the process, which will be determined by the Grant Assessment Panel and independent probity advisors.
Okay, now moving on to the eligibility criteria. So we can see that the eligibility criteria is made up of you being an eligible applicant and having an eligible project. So Kate, could you talk us through what is required under this program to make an application eligible?
Yeah, as you can see on the screen, to ensure your application is eligible, you need to make sure you tick all the following boxes. Your application must be submitted by an eligible applicant. So this is recognised SSOs or SSODs as listed in Appendix A of the guidelines. And you must also declare that they will hold at least a $5 million public liability insurance if successful. It must also be submitted through Smarty Grants, the online grant application website that we use. It must be for a project located in New South Wales, be for an eligible project, and request a grant amount appropriate for the relevant tier, noting that the grant values that we just talked through. Just refer to page 10 of the guidelines for more information if you're unsure.
And as you can see on screen, we've got an overview of the different funding tiers. Kate, what should applicants do first when starting their application?
Definitely identify the project clearly and ensure that the correct Smarty Grants form is opened for that appropriate tier.
And how can applicants prepare a strong submission?
Just review the program guidelines and gather the necessary evidence and documents before starting the application.
Perfect. And so what do applicants need to know about the 2 different tiers?
Each tier has different requirements and project types, so applicants must choose that tier that aligns with their project, otherwise they may be deemed as ineligible.
Perfect. Now on screen, we've got the 4 different assessment criteria. So starting off, what should an applicant include for criterion 1, strategic justification?
Sure. So with the first one, making sure that you explain how the project aligns with the program aims and objectives. Show the specific needs that it addresses in your sport and describe how it will remove barriers and support long-term inclusive culture beyond the grant period.
Perfect. Now, looking at criterion 2, which is project scope and inclusive design, what should an applicant be looking to include there?
Clearly describe the project and its deliverables. Demonstrate consultation with women and girls, outline how you will measure learning throughout the project, and show how your design considers diverse experiences using an intersectional lens.
Okay, now moving on to our third criterion, we've got project affordability and value for money. What should applicants be including here?
Providing a clear itemised budget supported by quotes and other evidence, and show that your costs are realistic, justified, and represent value for money.
Okay, and finally, we've got criterion 4, project deliverability and capability. What are applicants including here?
Yeah, so this one includes the project plan with tasks and milestones and timelines, as well as outlining risks and assumptions and demonstrating your organisation's or partners' experience or capability to deliver a project of this scale.
And we know that we've got the 2 tiers of funding available. Do they require different supporting documentation?
Yes, they do. Each tier has its own supporting document requirements, so applicants must check the table on page 13 of the program guidelines carefully and ensure all mandatory documents for their chosen tier are submitted. Missing mandatory documents may affect eligibility and reduce the merit score.
Okay, now moving on to the application process and Smarty Grant. Kate, could you explain how the Play Her Way applications are assessed?
They go through a 3-stage process. Essentially, that's broken up into 2 parts. First, there's an eligibility check confirming that the applicant, project, and documentation meets all requirements. Eligible applicants are then assessed against the published merit criteria. Those scores are then reviewed and determined by a grant assessment panel.
Perfect, thank you. And what is Smarty File and how can this help applicants?
Smarty File allows organisations with an ABN to store key documents such as insurances and incorporation details and then reuse them across multiple Smarty Grants applications. It also supports collaboration, enabling partner organisations to work together on the same application, which is also really useful for SSOs because you may have 2 or 3 staff involved in the application process or the project, and therefore you want them all to have access to the application itself. So please check out the Smarty Grants website for more information.
Perfect. I will note that the grants unit are here to assist applicants. So Kate, if applicants need help at any stage of the process, how can they access support?
Yeah, so on the screen are our contact details, but applicants should always refer to the program guidelines, which contains all the information required to prepare a strong submission. They can also review the frequently asked questions, download the PDF version of the application form, and understand all the questions and required documents needed to submit that, as well as contacting the grants unit by phone or email if they need further assistance. Thanks, Kerry. That's our summary, and back to you now.
Great. I'll just share my screen again. So hello, grants team, and thank you. All right. So there we have all the interesting bits around the nuts and bolts. The icing on the cake with everything like this is evaluation. And for those that are successful in getting a grant, we're going to work closely with you, with our partners at Sydney University, with the Sprinter Group. So is Catherine Owen online? Because I want to say a big hello to you. Oh, there she is. Hello, Catherine Owen.
Hi, Kerry. How are you?
Good, thank you. Now, you're a biostatistician at the University of Sydney.
Yep, I am.
That's a pretty big word. And you're also one of the leads in the Sprinter Group, and we have worked in partnership before under the former grant program. Can you just tell us why evaluation is so important, Kat? I mean, why do we need to worry about this?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'll keep it as brief and simple as I can. Evaluation is really, really important. We want to know whether a project has happened, but also whether it has actually made the difference that we hoped it had. We really want to know and have evidence of what's worked, for who, in what context, and why it worked. And it's also important to learn why things don't work. And if they don't work, we need to make changes so we can improve them for the future. And really, it's just about getting better evidence for the whole sector. And when things are working, we can scale them up and have more impact, which is really exciting.
And when we get working together, so what can everyone sort of expect? So I've got some pictures here of some of the workshops. Everyone looks really happy too. I think that's great because data can be fun. What can people expect once we go through those workshops?
Yeah, sorry, the noise is in my background. It's in the back of my office. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, the workshops, they're fun. They're quite straightforward. We're not trying to overwhelm you with lots of information and not trying to ask you to do too much. So we take a really pragmatic approach. And we just work with you individually to try and work out what's the best way to evaluate your program for your situation. And yeah, like I said, we're not trying to get you to do too much. We're trying to work out what's the most pragmatic way to collect the best data for you to have the best evidence to show impact of your projects.
Catherine, what I love about working with Sprinter and supporting sport to capture the data really well is that then it can be shared with other sports. And what I really love is when we do our innovators style forums and we showcase them, sports can share that and they can work with each other, because the golden nugget here is like my plane that we're building and flying at the same time, redesigning opportunities for women and girls so they can thrive in sport and cultures is better for everyone. So I think by doing, this incredible level of evaluation, capturing what's been happening, we'll get video clips and we can share that across the sector is really a valuable, invaluable element of our previous strategy. And it shows that when we ring fence funding for innovation, we do get incredible change, and we've had some amazing projects in the past. So thank you, Catherine. So everyone that gets successful will be playing ball with the Sprinter group and having a lot of fun, like in these photos. So thanks for joining us, Catherine. All right, so I'm just going to finish with this slide because I do like it. We could do nothing, could just do nothing because it is impossible. But sometimes when you match that together, you just do it because nothing is impossible. In a way, it's the way you look at something. And that's where innovation lies. Before I wrap, it's a real shame we couldn't get Phil's, due to some technical glitch, his presentation on today, but I've been told Phil is filming that as we go, and we'll have that alongside this this think tank recording on our Play Her Way Innovation Grant Program link on our webpage. So Phil won't be lost to you. It's a really interesting 10-minute presentation. It'll get you up to speed on the latest findings from his project on the engagement of adolescent girls in sport and how to keep them there. He will also offer some low-lying fruit for thought. And that will be up there hopefully by this afternoon as well. Everyone, you've been a wonderful audience. I want to thank you for supporting and championing women and girls in sport, for having the interest. We want to support your bold ideas, and I can't wait with my team to work closely with all the successful candidates. So that's enough from me. Have a great time in preparing your applications. Think of the socio-ecological model, think of the information you need, think of one of those streams that you feel is really worthy to apply for. Look at the guidelines, look at the innovation hub, have a go at the participation planning tool, or just go for it because you know what you want to do. And we'll see you on the other side. Thank you so much, and bye for now.